Hi everyone, welcome to the Ecosystem Innovation video series. Recently, we've talked about a lot of different topics, but earlier on in the cycle, we did touch a little bit on contract management before, but in a slightly different guise. But when you consider the inherent complexity of the creation of a holistic contract management framework in a large organization, in a large business, this evidently leads to the consideration of a lot of many things. Typical CLM solutions naturally cover the core aspects of contract management, and SAP, we do it very well as part of the source to pay suite. And naturally that's integrated into the procurement process. But how can you migrate contracts from many disparate systems into Ariba, especially after an M&A, for an example? How do you, for example, search for particular clauses within those thousands of contracts? Look at data privacy, risk, lease agreements, NDAs, etc. That aspect isn't so simple. Naturally, legal teams have to be very comfortable to be able to support both the needs of the business, but to be able to manage the risk of not knowing where this information resides and have it available to them readily and easily. So I thought today I'd invite my friends from Docusign, who've got a history in this, especially in dealing with this particular area. And today I have my old friend with me, Steve Tucker, who's the VP of Enterprise Sales at Docusign, to talk about their Docusign Insights solution. I want to also get his perspectives on the CLM market, because he's been in this space for a long time. So welcome, Steve. Why don't you do a quick intro, please? Thanks for joining me today. And let's get into all of the knowledge in that lovely big head of yours.
Thank you, Mo. I really appreciate you inviting me on here. Thanks very much. As Mo said, thank you. I'm Steve Tucker. I'm a VP of Enterprise Sales here at Docusign. I joined Docusign about 14 months ago after their acquisition of Seal Software, where I was leading sales within that business. I've got about 25 years. Actually, I was just doing it. It's about nearly 30 years of procurement consulting and procurement technology experience. So delighted to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Mo.
No worries. Thanks for joining. So listen, let's talk about what you're seeing in the CLM space, both from a customer perspective rather, and also in the market in general, and the challenges. Give us your insight.
It was great. I think I don't know, Mo, we used to work together. So I think about 12, 13 years ago, we were lucky to work together in a consulting business that was helping companies deploy CLM solutions back in the 2000s. We'd work with some of the biggest companies on earth, and whether they were deploying Ariba CLM as part of the SAP suite or others, we always found, I don't know if you recall, we always found the same two biggest challenges that those customers had. And that was the governance of the data within their CLM solution and the adoption of that technology for their users. And the customers were always struggling with that balance. The balance between asking human beings to maintain swathes of data across unstructured contracts and the natural human resistance to doing that, struggling with adoption. So, it's not, that problem still exists. It's actually one of the reasons, or the main reason why, joining Seal and starting that business in 2010, well, that problem still existed, and it still exists today. And those customers face challenges around search, retrieval, responding to change, especially on negotiated and third-party agreements. And so that challenge still exists today. Ultimately, the CLM solutions in the market are relational databases. They rely on input and good data quality. And so this issue isn't an Ariba issue or an SAP issue. It's a database issue, right? And having human beings interact with that. And so over time, just naturally, the data degrades. It can be incomplete. It can be static. It's difficult. It's not agile. It doesn't respond to change. And so, in simple terms, companies that have rolled out these technologies and others, CLMs, they simply find it difficult to remain highly confident in the content, in the information, whether that's through search, retrieval, or any kind of analytics that they might need to do. And so that problem exists, and I think that exists for every single organization that is rolling out a CLM solution.
It's weird, right? Because I think in procurement in general, if you look at the CLM solutions and you know, the Ariba ones, we've had it for a very long time, and we've iteratively improved it over that time. But contract management is a lot bigger than just the procurement aspect, you know, whichever way we look at it. And that's where having that intelligence to be able to get that information is becoming more and more critical. But at the same time, the business still want to integrate it into that whole piece, right? So so let's talk about what you've done with Docusign Insight there, because that's where you're trying to kind of merge everything together so that you've got it in a more intelligent way, if I'm not wrong.
No, that's right. I mean, I think that's exactly right. So Docusign Insight, you know, fully integrates with Ariba CLM to try and solve some of these challenges that we spoke of. Okay, and so, you know, yes, it's AI. Mm-hmm. Wow. So, you know, almost so what, right? There's some advanced technology, okay, that tries to solve some of those challenges by helping users get access to information, whether that's data they're looking to extract or questions they're looking to answer from, you know, what can be a wide range set of negotiated unstructured agreements. But that information that can be surfaced in Docusign Insight needs to be highly kind of iterative and connected to the Ariba CLM solution. And so that's set up. And so, you know, that connector allows, you know, a subset of those wide set of users that you want to live and be part of that connected source to pay solution. They live in Ariba, in that suite. That's where we want them, right? We want that adoption. But if the business can provide, or a subset of those users can provide the business with a level of intelligence that doesn't require those users, that community of users, to have to reread 10,000 agreements or to maintain 75 metadata fields across 10,000 agreements, right? If you can have an iterative application like Docusign Insight that talks and updates those workspaces, it's highly iterative in that, then what you do is you take the burden away from those users from data governance and data management, which is a real struggle. Yeah. You allow the business to answer those questions with agility. You know, we had customers that were leveraging both these technologies in a connected way. I think we're going to come on and talk about one of those. You know, and some of those customers had to look backwards when this pandemic hit to identify information in very large numbers of contracts that prior they hadn't maintained that data in the application. So having that agility to respond and yet not burden the users goes back to that original problem that we spoke around data governance and adoption and how we can balance that.
And collating that information as well, I think that's another challenge that you get in many businesses, because when you embark on a project like this, especially in a large organization, not to say that it's only a problem for large organizations, because smaller organizations have the same problem, but you know, usually because of SharePoint and a lot of paper. How do we get that information in the first place? Because that's also another big challenge that we've seen with the likes of BP that we've referenced before in previous conversations, because you need the data in the system, right?
Right, well, that's excellent. So there's two ways to do that. Well, actually three, one of them always fails. But you know, one way to do that is to ask human beings to upload every single agreement that they ever see, extract all the information, extract information they might need in the future, extract information they never know they're never going to need in the future, and put it into a relational database. Right. That's a problem, right? Because that will fail or certainly degrade. Yeah. The second way is to leverage the application when you're generating agreements, okay? When you're generating your own paper and you're using the CLM to do that, that's an opportunity to capture information at that point. Yeah. And the challenge is, we all know that CLMs can't handle third-party paper in terms of generating that agreement just naturally, right? It's going to come to you. You're going to be a receiver of that. So that's an ingestion point right there. And so Docusign Insight connected to Ariba CLM can handle that. The agreement comes in in third-party paper, and some clever technology can be applied to present the information in a structured way that sits within it, but also an opportunity to kind of do some risk scoring. So that's one way you're capturing on the intake from third-party paper. And the other is, well, I've got my rear view mirror of my 1 million agreements or my 10,000 agreements that I've already agreed to, and provide, a framework of information that is analyzed and extracted and presented across the historic set. And when you need something new, a much easier way to apply technology to do that, to extract that information. Once that's done, right, that's the insight engine, right? It's smart enough to do that. And now we have the connector that says, okay, it's great that you've got that in Docusign Insight, but my user community is not there. My user community is where we want them to be, which is Ariba CLM. So we connect that data to the workspaces so they can see that information, either before they've signed it, after they've signed it. That data is then presented back in the place that they would expect to see it.
Yeah, and that's I think the connector that you guys have built, the bidirectional connector, that's really key, because the efficiency that creates in and of itself, leaving aside everything else that Insights gives you, is actually a massive gain. And then we're talking about the intelligence once you've got that data. So having that data, then being able to analyze that data, being able to leverage that data, but at the same time keeping the core users in the Ariba solution. I think that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because for me, there's a lot of organizations today that have that challenge and don't know or aware that you've got Docusign Insights to be able to kind of pull all of that together. And just,
I mean, we're known. I mean, we dominate the e-sign market, right? So we're blessed to have this almost ubiquitous product that is throughout the world. We have over 1 million customers now just announced around Docusign, but that's on the e-sign side. So we have a lot of work to do to kind of communicate our agreement cloud strategy in the way that complements our partners like Ariba CLM. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do on that.
Yeah, and just I know we're gonna show a customer video which kind of makes it a bit more real for anybody who's watching this. But can you just talk a little bit also about how important this has been from a legal team standpoint, and the benefits that they have seen through it? Because that's naturally one of the biggest challenges that we've seen is procurement CLM solutions. Often you get that kind of tug of war of, yeah, well, it really works well for procurement, but legal kind of don't get everything that they need. And what is it? How does Insight really help bridge that? Because that's the other area that I think there's a huge benefit. That's
a great question. That's one of the big challenges, right? Buyers are in Ariba, sellers are in Salesforce.com, right? Just in simple terms, right? And never the two shall meet, right? But legal sits and wants to have a view across the whole business, and so DocuSign Insight connects to both of those. They can sit right and provide that information kind of bi-directionally to either of those applications. So have legal sit in the middle. I think it's very difficult for an attorney within a large organization, to likely look in Ariba or Salesforce or wherever they might be for all these different agreements, and them having a central point that they're confident is connecting to those business units so their own applications are up to date is very helpful. And they can trust that they can search and retrieve themselves. But also the complexities of what the legal team are looking for can often be higher, right? They are looking for maybe compliance terms. They're looking for regulatory challenges across. They've got a whole load of discovery events that might be going on, litigations, internal, external. So they have a much kind of broader concern around contracts rather than just getting data into a connected system for downstream payments or whatever it might be. And so having them centrally access it with confidence that the business units and the buyers are getting the data is important. They're also often, sometimes the ones that are heavily negotiating third-party agreements in partnership with procurement. Clearly we'll have a contract manager, but sometimes, we're having a legal team come in and do this negotiation. So having the ability to analyze those third-party agreements against their historic set of standards or their fallbacks in a very automated way within Word, which is where we want to be, right? Again, we want that information where the humans want to be. We want our buyers in Ariba, right? We might want the sellers in Salesforce. We might want legal in Word as they're negotiating a third-party agreement. And if that can all feed back into a central analytic engine, like Docusign Insight, but then feeds those systems, that's where you start to get much more connection. And that's what we're seeing with our customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. And thank you for explaining it that way. So why don't we cover that? I think if you just want to talk about the customer that we're going to show a video on, etc., and what it's going to cover, we can roll the customer video as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're delighted to have a joint customer in Cisco. There's a session we're going to see here in the next video where one of our practitioners, Tim Seth, is talking to the leads at Cisco about the way in which they connect Docusign Insight and Ariba CLM to true value in procurement around the speed of contracting and the information that they can have and how that can impact the way that they negotiate. So really pleased for that, and I hope the team and the viewers enjoy that.
Yeah, thanks. So we'll roll that now, and then when we come back, we'll close up with reference to, we've got another session that's going to be linked to this. So let's run the customer video now, and then we'll come back and give you some background on that too.
What is it that Cisco needs from partners like Docusign, like solutions like Insight, and what are the benefits you're getting from the digital transformation process you've been through?
Yeah, sure, Tim. Thank you very much. Happy to be here. So just to set the context for the audience, Cisco is a very large enterprise. I mean, these are just some of the numbers that I am putting on the slide just to give you a sense of the size and scale of our organization. Behind these numbers, our core strategy is to help our customers connect, secure, and accelerate their digital journey in a cloud-first world, right? Now, within the procurement organization, as highlighted on this slide, one of the core objectives for us is to enable world-class business capabilities using a digital foundation, right? So we are extremely proactive and heavy on using technology as an enabler to streamline our business processes, right? So we started this transformation journey almost like 3 years ago, like you talked about, and it's been quite some time. And the funny thing with transformation is that it just never ends. It kind of moves from one shape to the other. So when we had started, our main issue was that extracting valuable information from contracts was an extremely extensively manual process. So the contracts metadata also over time had become inconsistent and inaccurate. So our team had to spend a lot of time going through volumes of contracts. We had about 75,000 plus contracts at that point in time. And it was just a huge task for our team to try to find relevant information from those contracts. So part of our strategy then was to digitize the contract so that we can extract insights directly from the unstructured data itself and have a consolidated repository of contracts. So this is where, Docusign Insight helped us in implementing that strategy. So our current focus now has shifted from the digitize, the search, and the compare part to now how we can bring that capability within the point of contract authoring itself.
And really, where does that put you now in terms of, now you have been able to organize the content, now you have been able to get some of those benefits of it. Where can we take this capability next?
So our number one thing going forward is how do we bring the capability of analytics in the front end of the CLM cycle so that we can leverage that to make the contracts more smarter and we can create those contracts in a much more meaningful way. Number two is that how do we connect seamlessly within our digital ecosystem? Ariba is just one part of it, but we have other platforms that we work with. How can we seamlessly integrate across their entire digital ecosystem so that we can expand this capability to the other parts of the source to pay process as well? So those are the two core issues that we are actually trying to address in the near future.
Yeah, that was great, Steve. Thanks for sharing that with us. That's a really interesting use case. It kind of shows a lot of different elements. Anything else that you want to add to it as we finish off today's video?
No, I appreciate the chance to talk about this. It's really impactful on our businesses and our customers. So happy to play a part. Looking forward to the next sessions.
Thanks, Steve. And for the viewers, this was part one. So Steve mentioned Tim Seth's name. Tim and I also old friends. Tim actually recruited me back when I was at Hubru. And Tim and I, he's going to join me on the next video to do a full demo. We're going to do a demo of the solution so you guys actually see the solution working, and we'll kind of go through that, and I'll be asking Tim some questions on that as we go along. So thanks again, Steve. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. Audience, please do like, subscribe, share, comment below as well, because we want to know your thoughts. If you've got any questions, again, you can comment. I'll put links in the video so that you've got you can connect to Steve and the Docusign team. We'll have links to the actual solution and the website, etc. as well. But yeah, do join us for part two, where Tim and I will go through the solution in a bit more detail, and you know, I'm sure that's going to be a great video as well. Thanks again, Steve. Appreciate your time, my friend.